I guess my thought process on the game and the style that I decided early on that I wanted to play is I would rather play with the puck, and I would rather play somewhere else other than my end. So however we can pressure that up ice or pressure it through the neutral zone, get the puck, get it out of our zone, get it into the other zone and play down there. So it's been I guess it's been a style that I'm accustomed to, and something that I'm looking forward to try and bring here to Nashville.
Who did you try to borrow from the most, Peter? I mean, Michel Bergeron was a coach when you broke in with the Rangers, and Phil Esposito finished out there that year. You had Doug Sotart. You had people go down the line. Pete
Mahovlich was my coach at one point. I learned a lot from my high school coach. My high school coach was a fierce competitor. I think you learn something from that. I really do. He would, and this was back, I don't want to date myself here, but this was back, 30 years ago, 35 years ago. I think from more than anybody, I learned to win or try to win or never accept losing from my high school coach.
Good.
And Tim Taylor was a very talented, very smart hockey mind. And I think you watch him, and I remember being on his Olympic team one year, and I didn't know him that well. I went to Lake Placid to try out for the '94 team, and we were going to drive to the rink, and he said, hop in my truck. So I hopped in his truck, and we stopped at a light, and he had a scratch pad that was suction cupped to his window, and he grabbed a pencil and he starts jotting on it, and he starts drawing a forecheck, and he says, what do you think of this? And I'm like, we're at a traffic light here, like we're not going to get killed, are we? But he wanted to talk hockey, and he wanted to talk about the game all the time. Just a tremendously nice man. And so I think just bits and pieces. Bobby Francis was a guy who got me into the game. Emile Francis, his son, and went on to Phoenix, was a great coach in Phoenix. I learned a lot from him because it was my first opportunity really at coaching. And sometimes you just go into an office and don't say much. You just kind of watch and learn, and you're a sponge more than anything else. So, but I learned, like I said, I learned one of my coaches is with us here, Kevin McCarthy, my assistant coach, and I learn a lot from him every day. He's been around the game longer than I have, and as a coach longer than I have, and just a smart man. So I go over to a tournament, and I get to work with a guy like Phil Housley, who's so talented, and you watch, and I'm learning from Phil. I'm watching how he runs his meetings and how he runs his power play units, and the manner in which he does it, and you see how effective that is. So there's lots of people you're always learning from.
So when we watch you driving down the street, we shouldn't expect the suction pad with the notebook there and writing down forecheck systems.
My wife gives me such a hard time for the way I drive, because she thinks there's too much going on between a phone and a coffee and everything else that she's not going to want me to do that.
The streets of Middle Tennessee are safe.
Yeah, this is good. That's right. This is good. 2 hands on the wheel, 10 and 2.
Peter, one of the first people we talked to after you got hired was Matt Cullen, and he was really excited to have you coming here. Pete referenced your time in Carolina, Stanley Cup champions, the year after the lockout. Certainly a huge moment in your career and Matt's. How much does it help to have a veteran player like that that's familiar with you and what you do, especially a guy who has influence on some of the younger players?
Yeah, Matt was terrific. I'm really looking forward to getting back with Matt, and that's always, when players leave or somebody gets traded from one team to another, or a coach moves on and from one organization to another. Hockey's a small circle, it's a small world, and you always seem to touch base back with players that maybe you've gotten to experience them in the past. And my time with Matt in North Carolina was terrific. We had success as a team. Matt was a big part of it. He really played a significant role in our championship run, and I think it goes to the balance of the team and the attack of a team. If you've got a guy like Eric Stahl, and you've got a guy like Rod Brindamore, to have a guy like Matt taking on the minutes and contributing with a guy like Ray Whitney, like it was a layered attack. It was a layered forward group that we had, and Matt was a huge part of that. He's a terrific person and a great hockey player. He's got a great family, and yeah, we're looking forward to getting back with Matt as well.
Outstanding. Well, folks, should we bring on Kevin now?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Kevin McCarthy, assistant coach, joining in the staff here. I don't think you need the microphone stand here, Kevin. So you have worked with Peter at a couple of different stops. What have you learned about him?
Well, the first thing I learned with Peter was, was interesting because when Lavi first came into Carolina, I was part of the current staff, and I was fortunate enough to be able to stay with that staff at the time and be able to coach with Lavi. One of the first things I learned about Lavi was his passion. Passion for the game, passion for the what it takes to every day. The work habits, the planning, the practice planning, all the things that you need to do to have success as a team. There was never anything that wasn't thought about. And that was one thing that I was really impressed with Lavi, is how he approached the game, how he approached the players, his communication skills, and he was a really great guy to work with, obviously. But one thing I really was fortunate was that the minute he came in, I was part of the staff. I was with him, and in every which way. He valued my opinion. He asked for my opinion, and I think as an assistant coach, that's all you can ask for. And I was really fortunate to be able to stay on and experience that. And the other thing with Lavi was that I found really important too is that all the coaches I worked with before, you spend a lot of your time in practice working on the defensive side of the game. Your defense zone coverage, things that you have to do. And you continue to do that as a staff and as a team. But he was the first coach that I ever worked with that actually worked on the offensive game, had an offensive scheme, practiced, what you do when you got the puck in the offensive zone, things that you take for granted. It was almost like D-zone coverage in reverse. When you had the puck, what are you going to do with it? Where are you going to go? And all of a sudden, players knew just by practicing it over and over again that there was an offensive scheme as well as a defensive scheme. So that was the first time in all my years that I've ever been involved with a coach that actually worked on the offensive part of the game like he did. And I thought that was very interesting and obviously very successful for us.
Peter, I think a lot of people would be curious with you putting together a staff. You mentioned Phil Housey, some guys that have been here, bringing in Kevin, a new guy. How do you try to define roles within your staff?
Well, certainly some great people that I'm fortunate to get to work with here, and this is my first trip and really my first time being in Nashville, and I'm getting to meet a whole bunch of people here, and even some of the staff here in Nashville for the Nashville organization. I think as we move through the week here and into the month of June, through meetings with the coaches, and I think we'll have a much better time frame to sit down with everybody, including Kevin. I haven't really talked to Kevin. I saw him here and I gave him a big hug. So I saw Phil. Phil, I actually got to sit down and spend some time with, but I need to spend some time and sit down with Elaine and Mitch and Kevin as a group, and we'll get to all of that. I think we'll be able to sort all of that out through time here, and instead of bringing something out that I haven't talked to everybody else about first, we should probably just get to these guys, and I think that those roles will become clearer as the summer moves forward.
I think a lot of people too would look at the personnel that you're inheriting here. Two guys we haven't talked about, but they were really a backbone last year. Roman Josi and Shea Weber as a real first-rate defensive pairing. That as Roman Josi progressed throughout the season, his game really ratcheted up, and obviously we know how good Shea Weber is. What's your thought of how you use weapons like that?
Well, I started by saying I'm fortunate to be here in Nashville and part of this organization for a lot of different reasons, but certainly their personnel as well. To get the opportunity to work with a defenseman like Shea is exciting for me. It's exciting for the fans and the organization, and I'm really looking forward to that. You're talking about an elite defenseman in the National Hockey League, so I think we're all looking forward to that. Roman Josi I got to see, and I did meet him and spend a little bit of time with him over at the World Championships. Certainly able to see what he's capable of bringing on the ice as well. But there's a lot of players that I'm really looking forward to working with and meeting, both veteran players and young players. I've reached out, I've talked to some of the guys. I've said before, I haven't been back very long, and it's been a little bit of a whirlwind trying to take care of my affairs in New Jersey and get to Nashville and pick my son up at prep school, and I'm bouncing around a little bit, but I've been picking off the players and just touching and reaching out and touching base. Talked to Mike Fisher a couple days ago, and I did talk to Shay already, so I'm working my way through it and try to establish phone calls with these guys, talk to them, and when they're in town, get a chance to sit down with them. But there's a great group of young players here. There's a great group of veteran players. That's what makes it so promising. That's what makes it so exciting.
I'm just thinking as well, Kevin, for you, the whirlwind exists also. Tell us a little bit about what the transition is like for you so far.
Well, fortunately for me, you know, I'm in a different stage of life than Lavi, so my wife, Rhonda, she's here also. We're empty nesters now, so the transition going from one city to the next is a little bit easier than it has in the past. You know, we have 3 grown daughters now that are all out living on their own, so, and a couple of grandkids. So you know, it's but I got married when I was 20. So, but we're really looking forward to this transition. We've been through this before, and it's very exciting when you come to a new organization. But it's also very exciting when you come to an organization like Nashville. You know, I've heard so many positive and great things about the organization as an opponent, and then to actually sit here and experience it and talk with the people in the organization, and it's just a real first-class organization that they've done things that my wife and I haven't seen in our 35 years in hockey. So it's we're really excited about it.
Even to pick up on that just for a second,
Yeah.
I can't tell you, and Kevin would back this up as well, I can't tell you how many times since I've taken this job now, we've mostly been in the Eastern Conference, so we haven't been to Nashville as much as if we were in the Western Conference. So maybe a half a dozen times or so that we've come to this great city. But since we've taken the job, I can't tell you how many people have reached out to us and said, you're going to one of the best cities in the country. And you're going to love it. The people are great. The fans are great. Great place to raise a family.